I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself and kind of get things started here. My name is Jessica Orlando, and I'm the chair of the AIA LA Practice Committee. You can feel free to shoot out any questions you might have to Will. He'll connect you with me if you have any questions on the committee or how to join. Typically, we like to put on at least 6 to 8 event series throughout the year, and we've had several great virtual events this year, given everything going on with COVID. So we appreciate you all attending in this virtual setting, and we like to encourage a lot of interactivity and conversation through these events. So please, everyone, feel free to message us any questions or comments in the chat box, and we will make sure that we kind of address those as we go through things. And I also want to go ahead and thank all of our panelists for being here today. We've got a really great group of folks here to talk about a really pertinent topic. And so we want to thank them for their time and participation. You can kind of see everyone's information here on the current slide. And I'm actually going to go ahead and play a quick video from SoCal NOMA while we kind of let in the last few people here.
I want to talk about the camp in general. It is part of a national initiative for the National Organization of Minority Architects. We have 44 chapters across the country, and within those chapters, the national initiative was that we wanted to make sure that coming up through the pipeline for architecture, especially for minorities, that there are some students interested and aware that architecture was an option for them. That? Yes.
Okay. You're going to act as an architect through this summer camp. So you may say, what is an architect? Well, an architect is someone who practices architecture. So then what is architecture? Yeah. Architecture is the act of designing and engineering buildings, including the spaces that connect them.
We introduce the students aged 10 to 16 to architecture. And we allow them to learn about the built environment, how it affects them, how it affects their community. What we have found is that middle school students, there was a study done that none of them were considering architecture as a profession. One, because they hadn't been introduced to it, and two, because they just hadn't met anybody that was either like them or from their community that was an architect. So we were very alarmed by that because we are champions of diversity. And we want to make sure that this profession is full of all kinds of cultures, and that the energy that comes from building our nation or just even building our cities and communities is well-rounded.
As you can see, there's a whole bunch of area around the stadium. This area represents land. This is imaginary real estate. Each of you is a part of that, okay? You're real estate developers today. You're also architects and engineers. You gotta make the building stand up, design it, and it's gotta have great function.
It was a cool experience coming to this camp. I never really knew what architecture was. I would have never thought I would be interested in becoming an architect. And after the field trip today, I actually was interested in becoming an architect. And,
yeah. In the US, we have about 125,000 licensed architects, and of which it's only about 430 African-American women architects. We make up less than about 0.3% of our profession. And one of the advice I always give to students is don't let the numbers, don't let the percentages deter you. It's such a great profession in terms of impacting our communities, impacting the lives of so many people.
So this was basically made as a bigger part. We actually have 2 parts, this tiny one and a big one. This one includes the water feature, which is basically like a little pond. And we have some lawns to express that it is a park along with trees in between. And it basically is like a main hub center for people to just hang out or calm down. Or because we have good weather in LA, so it's not like it's hard for us to just hang out inside.
What's so important about this is not only to introduce them to architecture, but also hopefully they'll continue and become an architect.
thought when I heard about NOMA that it was a place that was not a good place for me, a place that I would be accepted. And I was just blown away about how great the people were and got really inspired. What I realized from all that is being a white man, an elderly white man now, that it's really partly our responsibility to help make the difference. We can't just leave ethnic groups like NOMA to do it on their own. The summer camp for us is one of those things that's really important because this is the pipeline to get those students into the schools so that we can get them. We get from what Whitney Young called 50 years ago, 2% African Americans in the profession, still the same today, that we double that in 2 to 3 years, and we double it again and really have an impact. So we're not sitting here in 50 years talking about it.
Let's say someone else were to do this, I would say that, go for it, because with new experience, you get exposed to new things and you may just surprise yourself. I really like some compliments.
So we'd like to thank SoCal NOMA for kind of helping us to kick off this event. For those of you who joined us, I just would like to remind you that we'd love to have your questions, your comments. So please make sure to put things into the chat box and we'll address those as we go throughout the event. And so what we'd like to do right now is allow each of our panelists from each of these 4 organizations talk for a little bit about who they are, what they do, what their organizations are trying to achieve, and just give us a little bit more background. And that we'll spend about 20 to 25 minutes on that. And then we're going to move into kind of more of an open discussion and conversation. So please feel free to share with us your thoughts. And I'm going to turn it over to Elatrice now at SoCal NOMA to take us away. Can you hear us okay, Elatrice?
Yep.
Get us started here and I can run through the slides as you're ready.
So I'm Elatrice Harris, and thank you for this opportunity to speak and showcase our initiative and how we are impacting youth and making sure that there is a pipeline coming up and available to take our places in architecture and to continue in impacting the built environment. So we'd like to introduce you to our program, next slide, which is Project Pipeline. We are SoCal NOMA, the local chapter of the National Organization of Minority Architects, and our mission is to champion diversity. And we do this through the programs that we present through our national initiative called Project Pipeline. So a little bit about the National Organization of Minority Architects. Was founded in 1971 by 12 African American architects who were at the AIA conference and just decided that they needed to take into their own hands their future and to provide opportunities for growth and development for African Americans in this profession. And that was the start of the National Organization of Minority Architects, known as NOMA. And there are about 40 chapters across the nation in different cities that are a part of the organization. And we have 102 chapters in colleges and universities across the nation also, and internationally. So we were given the initiative, thank you, about 14 years ago to do our part in our respective cities to create a pipeline. Next slide. And then that pipeline, we were tasked with producing and opportunities to introduce youth to architecture. And we do that through several different vehicles, and our main vehicle is the summer camp. Next slide. We introduce students middle school through high school into college and graduation to our pipeline. And the first introduction is middle school students. We do that through our summer camp, which we offer 3 consecutive Saturdays in the summer to introduce youth to the community and provide them with an opportunity to have community engagement where they participate in a project and community engagement and the profession and professionals in architecture. Next slide. The beauty of our program is that we focus on inner city youth, and we allow these youth the opportunity to see someone that looks like them from their community that is an architect, an engineer, or in urban planning. We start our pipeline at the summer camp, 10 years old. We move over the years. This is our 11th year of hosting this camp. And over the years, we have had students who have decided that this is a career path that they want to take. And it gave us the opportunity to create our boot camp, which was for high school, is for high school students who are highly gifted and interested and have declared architecture or design as their career of choice. And so this boot camp allows them a deeper dive into architecture and understanding the design and community. The next step on our pipeline is our NOMAS student chapters that are at colleges and universities across the nation, the United States, and abroad. And what we have here in Southern California is we have 7 established NOMAS chapters at the colleges and universities in this area, and we service them through mentorship, leadership, and the connection to professional groups. Those colleges are USC, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly Pomona, East Los Angeles College, El Camino, Woodbury, and Cal Baptist University. Each of those chapters, each of those schools or colleges has a NOMAS chapter for which we service and connect with. The next leg on our pipeline is for our young professionals. These are for young people who have graduated from college or university and have entered into the professional as interns and young developing professionals. And we provide support throughout this time and through the architectural registration process, through mentoring, study groups, study material, and financial support. Next slide. All of our programs are sponsored 100% by the architecture, engineering, and construction community. And we have community partners that we invite to consider sponsoring our programs, all of the project pipeline programs. And it will help us to establish and cultivate this awareness of the built environment across our pipeline programs. Next slide. The demographics for our camp, our summer camp is age 10 to 13, and our architectural boot camp is 14 to 18 or graduation from high school. And then we encourage them to join a NOMAS chapter across the nation in an architectural school that they attend. And then we open it up to all young professionals. Our camps are held at East Los Angeles College. Well, right now they're 100% virtual, but when we get the green light to go back to some level of normalcy, we will be back at East Los Angeles College. And our programs are year-round from November to June, and then our summer camps are in July. Next slide. This is our contact information, and we are open and available for collaboration and partnership. Thank you for this opportunity to share our programs.
That, I would like to turn it over to Patty, who's representing the ACE Mentorship Board. If you're not familiar with ACE, they're another great mentorship organization that works directly with high school students here and both nationally as well. Patty, if you want to take it away.
Thanks, Jessica, and thanks for this opportunity. Elatrice, I loved your slides, and now I wish that I had put some together on ACE too, but I didn't, so I'll just, I'll tell you all about it. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I'd love to tell you more about it. So as Jessica mentioned, ACE is a mentoring program. It's a national program, and I'm part of the Los Angeles and Orange County affiliate. We serve about 450 students across 21 teams in LA and Orange County. And one of the things that I think is really great about ACE is that our students really reflect the community of LA. We have a really diverse student population that participates in ACE. And the goal of ACE is to introduce high school students to architecture, construction, and engineering. So it's for older kids, high school kids, and the students meet every other week. In the fall, they learn about our industry, just sort of the basics, you know, what are plans, what are elevations, what's a column, what does a contractor do, that sort of thing. And in the spring, all the teams work together on a big group project. And so one year, we had the teams design an Olympic Village. So each of our 21 teams designed a different piece of that Olympic Village, and then it all came together into one mega project. And I really love this, this end of year project because it's similar to the way that we actually work as professionals, where we're all working on different projects within our community, but they're all coming together to hopefully make our communities a better place. Most of the students that are served by ACE come from underserved communities. Over half of them have never had a family member attend college before, but most of our students go on to go to college. 98% of our students graduate from high school on time. And it's a really powerful way to help get students engaged in our industry. And like Elatrice was talking about with the NOMA program, create that pipeline to hopefully create a more diverse industry. Because I think that, you know, I don't think that our industry right now really does reflect the communities that we live and work in. And I would love to see that change and get better. I guess the last thing that I'll say is that we always have more students who want to participate than we have mentors available. And we're always looking for mentors, whether you can donate a day of your time or you can participate in the bi-weekly sessions. We'd love to have you join us. And we are doing an online program while schools are going virtual. And once schools go back to being in person, then we'll start doing our in-person meetings as well. But there's definitely an opportunity to participate right now. And I think now is a really great opportunity to get a taste for it without having to necessarily make a big time commitment. I always tell people I think I get more out of it than the students do. It's really rewarding. The students are all very bright and inspiring, and they give me hope for the future. So thank you so much, Jessica, for this opportunity to talk about the ACE Mentor Program.
Patty. And I think that's a topic we definitely want to return to, is just, you know, how, you know, obviously we, as people, are interested in engaging with students and people who will potentially become professionals, but how rewarding it is for us too as professionals to interact with these young people who are very inspiring. So definitely want to come back to that. But next up, we have Marcella from LATTC and LACCD, but she's also heading up a new program through the mayor's office. And she's here to tell us a little bit about both of those projects that she's been working on. Marcella?
So thank you very much for having me. More than anything, it's fabulous to be working with programs that are very similar and also very unique. And the time is right. Even if we were to duplicate 10 times each of these efforts, the crisis is huge in our built environment. For us to sustain accessibilization, our numbers indicate that more people need to participate in the making, operating, and maintaining the built environment as an ecosystem. And it is the AEC industry cluster in charge of it. And inside of it, there's hundreds of new career opportunities that are emerging every day that are actually the interconnection and taking a little bit of each, including product manufacturing, recycling, landscape architecture, and so on. So I recommend the United States Green Building Council, the LA chapter has a talent portal that we are beginning to see the creation of these new career inside the AEC industry cluster, as well as the roadmap that the AIA has placed under the framework for design excellence. So as I said, Marcel, although I'm a professor and I'm an evangelist for the program Career by Design LA, which will help local communities implement the sustainable development goals and Mayor's Scarcetti Green New Deal to create environmentally healthy, economical, prosperous, and equitable future for Angelinas. The CDLA is initiative. It has a partnership with LA Trade Tech Architecture Program, Career Excellence Academy, and Workforce Connection. I have taught for 30 years in the core of LA, serving the most diverse student body. The diverse student body is composed of a mixture of veterans, recent immigrants with degrees from around the world, contractors, creative graffiti artists, ex-felons, retrained software workers, high school students with dual enrollment, and traditional transfer students, among others. We run our studio as an atelier where we design, build, and operate and maintain projects for the community by the community. We have 100% transfer and 100% job placement, but it's a very small group for the type of footprint that we need to do. The good news is that it's scalable and it's duplicable, and I'm hoping to work with all of you guys to collaborate. We have a special secret that I'm going to share with you. It's basically 3 things that I think makes this program, that makes this program so unique. We provide basically meaning and purpose to all our students because they all embark in real projects by the community. And this makes a sense of ownership. So these are real projects that are going to be transforming our community, and they elevate the living condition. So that's number 1. I think the new type of students, they really wanna create meaning, they really wanna create purpose. Number 2, we see this as an interconnection and interoperability between the AEC industry clusters. So the students start seeing that it's all connected and it's all interdependent. And then the third one is that we develop with the United Nations and with NASA urban interventions that produce programs and functions on a 20-minute walkable community. That's why the AIA framework is so important, to elevate the social justice and the living conditions. So all the way from designing a fence, to green alleys, to pocket parks, to green shade infrastructure. So we have a beautiful taxonomy that another time I would like to share with you. So just really quick, we do professional development for educators. We do a course that is now transferable to universities. It's a 3-unit course. We started our first cohort, and all our students are going to also learn soft skills. They will compete for internships, and they will be collaborating with industry partners to design and visualize these urban interventions as just transition projects for the Sustainable Development Goals. I welcome this challenge, and we are looking forward to collaborate with all these associations and all our partners.
So much, so I know it's kind of hard to summarize it quickly, but I think that was great.
I'm sorry.
No,
I tried to condense it, but
it's a lot. So
it's a lot.
So last but not least, we have Creighton Taylor here from Guided Compass, and so he's been kind of sitting in this unique space of connecting students to opportunities. And he's here to talk a little bit about his app and who he's been partnering with and what he's been up to. Creighton?
Classic, I started talking without unmuting. Thank you so much, Jessica. Yes, I'm founder and CEO of Guided Compass. We're a technology platform that works with high schools like LAUSD, Detroit Public Schools, as well as nonprofit organizations that do mentoring and placements into internships. Most of our clients are either high school or college students. But I love hearing about the middle school stories because we want to be more active in that space. And so, I guess we classify ourselves as work-based learning and project-based learning. What does that mean? Sort of a bunch of things. I guess we kind of help with mentor matching with our platform. Mentors and employer representatives can, I just saw something in the chat, can post inspiration for projects that students can submit to, either one-off projects or even competitions, where students can kind of vote on them and comment and things like that. And so that's particularly helpful virtually with some of the architecture software and the ability to model kind of houses and things like that for entry-level students that are just trying to gauge a little bit of interest in the space. And so, they're able to interact with mentors virtually without necessarily giving out contact information or, having the mentor, having to spend too much time, working with each of the students. And it's also a way to scale mentor expertise, obviously because there's only so many mentors. And so mentors can post inspiration for projects, students can work on them, mentors can get feedback. And so that's been a really big piece actually for the last year for us. And then the other things we do is we help with internship. Big thing that we do is help with like internship matching. And so how we do that is we kind of have this matching algorithm that helps these middle people, what I call work-based learning coordinators or nonprofit organizations that kind of refer students, helps them with that process. And so we look at students, we look at the professionals, what they want in terms of interests, values, skills, even educational requirements, certifications, all those things in terms of what the ideal candidate is. And then students take certain assessments, they work on projects, they build their profile, and they are able to see how they match up against that ideal status, so they can kind of work towards that. And so that the middle person can refer them and say, hey, like this student is a good match, not only for these soft pieces and these intangible qualities, but also because they've been working on these hard skills as well. So yeah, that's a summary, I guess, of what we do.
Fantastic. So we're gonna move into our Q&A portion, and I'm actually just gonna kick it off with a question because you kind of sparked something for me, Creighton, and then I'm gonna ask John B., one of my colleagues in the practice committee, to help us start with a few questions. But with everything going on with COVID, I think all of us have been kind of forced to pivot and change how, we approach, pretty much everything in our professions and our careers and, just interpersonally as well. I know that a lot of the programs that are being run through NOMA and ACE, have all gone virtual. I'm wondering if you at Guided Compass have seen any changes, kind of increases in demand for tools like the ones that you're creating. And I'm also wondering if, Marcella or Patty or Ilatrice, if you've, started using new tools and, how you've kind of navigated all of this as we've had to change our processes and still try to stay engaged, especially with students and other professionals that we're mentoring.
Yeah, so I've been pretty much drinking out of a fire hose this past 6 months because yes, there's been a huge spike in demand because everything's remote. Our current clients want new features that allow, remote, for them to, not only operate remotely, but for students to stay engaged, like this competition piece. We really beefed that up. So a lot of the stuff during the summer, instead of doing internships, they did what we call challenges, and they would all kind of compete, do little competitions virtually. They'd be able to vote, they'd be able to comment or reply, and it's this sort of gamification element to it that there was just more layered on and more of a need for that this summer. That we did that with a lot of different programs. And then obviously, just because there's less in-person events, there's been a lot of a need for just kind of organizing everything. And so we kind of help with that. I mean, our three pillars are events, projects, and work. just really internships. And with events, that was before just kind of like being an Eventbrite of RSVPing to events, but as it became webinars, it became there's more events and there's more stuff online, so it became more helpful to have that events piece to introduce students to the world of work, whatever that path it may be. Because we work with architecture and engineering as well as a bunch of other different pathways.
So Jessica, we actually saw 42% growth. I think that transportation was really a mobility crisis for many of our disadvantaged communities. It's much easier now for them to take classes, and it's easier for speakers to come to our sessions. In addition, all our courses had to be expedited and certified to be approved by the Department of Labor to be taught. And we're actually currently working on erasing out-of-state tuition and international tuition, because I'm even having international students now take our courses and out of the state. So I think it presents some wonderful opportunities. And of course, I think after this, we're probably gonna go hybrid. But it was difficult at the beginning because we have to facilitate the computer and even bring a Google antenna to a parking lot so people will have wire connection. But I think once all of these got more stable, it's really opening up the gates. And then all our software companies, everything is for free for them. You're talking about, it used to be $240,000 worth of software. This is 10 years ago and even 5 years ago. Now everything is for free. So they really have access to all these visualization, all smart mapping and smart modeling, BIM, which has been the tool that has transformed so much the industry. So, and they're creating some beautiful proposals. And I'm so grateful to all our software companies really supporting this effort. So I see great benefits. I really do. I mean, there's nothing like, the human element, and I'm sure we're gonna get there, but I think it forces us to grow. And I see a lot of positive things.
Yeah, we've heard the same thing from some of our students, that the transportation or not having to think about transportation has been a benefit for some students. So I think you're right, Marcella, there's an opportunity here. One thing that Elatrice said is that it's important for our young people to have mentors that look like them and have similar experiences. And so I think that's one thing that is harder to achieve virtually. I think it's easier to make those connections and tell those stories in person. But I think, we need to make the best of this situation. What ACE is doing is, rather than each of the teams doing their own program like we would normally do if things were in person, we are doing a virtual program for all the students. So the different team leaders are taking turns leading the weekly sessions. And one opportunity that we've taken advantage of is, like you were saying, Marcella, we are actually opening these classes to anybody in any ACE program across the country. So we've got students from all over the country attending ACE LA sessions, which I think is really great.
So, yes, I would concur with everything that all other panelists have said about the virtual opportunity that we have been given. At the summer camp, we usually host anywhere from 120 to 150 students in person, which is a grand feat because we must house and feed and make sure that they have water and everything else. So for us, it was a tremendous financial savings that we did not have to spend, like Marcella said, the thousands of dollars that we spend every year to make sure everybody is hydrated. We also, by not being in person, didn't have to do a lot of the things that we would do, having to be with the students, as even administrative work was cut down. But the beautiful part about our program, we were able to host upwards of 200 students from across the nation. we are charged in each one of the 15 cities to make an impact to our local students. And we do that with excellence in our own zones. But this year we were able to even, our camp, we had 40 students that were from other places that weren't in one of those cities where we have our other 14 camps. So we were able to open up this opportunity to them, and they were some of our best students and that want to continue on the architecture. People were finding our program through means that we had not used before. So the whole virtual situation and atmosphere created contact. It created an opportunity for those that did not have the chance to participate. They had a chance this time. And we are evaluating whether or not our program will always have this virtual piece. The other thing it allowed us to do was to expand our volunteer and mentor pool. We had people that had been wanting to volunteer for our camp for some time. We're able to do that from all parts of the country. We even had one volunteer from Hawaii. So we were excited about that reach that it provided for us. It also gave us, on the sponsorship level, international sponsorship, national and international, that I don't think would have gotten otherwise had not campers from all over the country been able to participate. So all around, it was a great thing for us. One thing we did have, and I want to mention and let everybody know, there was a huge learning curve in how we were actually going to present the camp. So I don't want to gloss over this thing that it was all happy times. There was a 2-month period where we had to hunker down and develop our program, train the mentors, and then be prepared for the campers. We also had to train the parents. The beautiful part about our program is that we use the program that the schools had already been using to finish out the semester. Our program was completely on the Google Suites, which at least the schools in LAUSD and the LA County area had been using. So the students were familiar. It was the mentors and the parents who had to come up to speed and to get ready. And we were able to do that through this virtual environment. So we really appreciated this opportunity.
So I'm Janvi, and I work with Jessica on the committee, and we had a few more questions for the panelists, and I see some other questions coming in, so we'll try and answer all of those, or get answers for everybody. I think one of the big questions we've always had is, what are the challenges that your organization faces in terms of achieving your goals? And that's part A question. The part B is, how do we as professionals can help you attain those goals? You know, whether it's mentoring, whether it's scholarship, how do we get, how can we help as professionals in this industry as well? So if you could each elaborate a little bit. I know Patty already touched a little bit about mentors and the struggles you guys face in getting sometimes volunteering. So we'd like to continue building this momentum.
Yeah, so I guess there are a number of ways to participate in ACE. We have 2 big fundraising events a year. One is our golf tournament, and the other is the ACE Spotlight Awards. And we had to cancel our golf tournament this year because of the pandemic. So we are certainly concerned about finances, and while we're doing okay right now, I will say that I am a little bit worried about the program funding as the longer this whole pandemic drags on. But I would say, more than money, the best thing and the most valuable thing for us is your time and getting mentor participation. And it could be for just a day or for an afternoon, about 2 hours commitment. We're always looking for experts to talk about different things. So maybe we need a mechanical engineer to explain how systems work, or an interiors designer to explain, what you do. So that's always great. And then, once people try the program, they kind of get hooked. And so the time commitment, I mean, it is a commitment, but there are teams that mentor teams of students. So even if you're committed to helping a team for a semester or for the school year, if something comes up and you can't make it one day, or you have a big deadline and you just can't fit in ACE that day, there's a whole team of mentors that can help fill in. And so it is a commitment, but I think it's well worth it, and it's flexible.
Thank you, Patty. Did somebody else?
One of the things that I want to interject here is that I think the reason we need to go back to the reason why we're doing this and the situation that the industry in general is in, and I'm going to be speaking mainly for architecture, is that we need to, and the help that we need from all of you, the architectural community, is to get on board with, we're doing this at these grassroots levels to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in the profession. So, and we're doing an excellent job, all of these programs, and we're hitting the schools hard, and we're working with the students, but we want them to give them a profession to come into that reflects the work that we're doing. We're down here in the grassroots level, and we're doing the work in middle school, high school, college, job training. We're doing all of that, but then they get there and they finish and they get into the industry and they're hit with this wall. And so I would ask, if you want to help our work, is to help make a place for when they do get to that point and they enter the industry, that they find diversity, they see inclusion, a just architectural educational system. Even in the students we're dealing with, we're just dealing with middle school and high school, but then they're going to go to college, and what are they going to see and experience when they get there? So work with us on the other levels also, and how we can bring diversity, equity to the profession in general. And there are some significant steps and actions that can be taken at that higher, deeper, grander level, so that they walk into something that is inclusive.
Latrice, you just, I don't want to take it off the rails too much here, but you like really, you made some really good points, and really kind of like outline some of my frustration, I think, in this space. And I think a lot of frustration, I think, for anyone that's helping with the pipeline, it is ultimately up to, once they're done with the pipeline, what's going to happen, right? So I've had a lot of conversations in industry, and I think one of the things that what I would love to happen, and I just don't see enough of, is case studies, diversity case studies. With people, working professionals, how they perform in teams and what kind of teams, particularly around something as, like in the design of architecture, anything creative, where, new ideas are they matter. And so, like, I think there just could be a lot of, I just don't see that many, and I look, of really interesting case studies about different teams in different environments at different stages of their career, and how that affects performance specifically, however we define performance. And because I think that also, if we're able to do the work there, then we're able to also see where the gaps are, I think, more clearly at a professional level, and then be able to like back into the talent pipeline, I think, more effectively. It's like, oh, we now have a bunch of case studies. We now see that, you're missing this, and this piece, this, and this, and this piece. Let's go back like 5 years, college students, high school students. This is the piece that you want, and then you can train them on that. And then you got yourself a program that's tailor fit to industry. I just feel like, yeah, I think it'd be nice to be able to have that perspective, because then we can talk the language of the employer, who's ultimately responsible at the end of that pipeline, and be able to make the point that we are actually, generating some bottom line, some actual results for you as well.
Both of you guys said is really, I mean, it's really powerful, and I think that's why all of us are here today. And I think for us from the committee side, part of the reason why we wanted to bring all of you guys together within this group is that, you know, this is a spectrum. You know, you know, a lot of times working for a large corporation, I work for one of the largest corporations in the world. You know, it's easy for us to kind of think of this as like a point in time issue. You know, we're just hiring. That's all we're doing. But really it's a lot more than that. It's, you know, where are the people coming from that we're hiring? And then how are we stewards of those people as they become emerging professionals, and, you know, then they become mentors, and then, you know, it's really a big cycle. And so I think that part of what, you know, resonates with me is, you know, that we do kind of have this commitment and this duty as professionals to think about the future and, you know, what is the future that we're creating. And so I really, you know, I really appreciate you know, hearing you guys talk about that. And I think I'd love to hear you talk maybe just a little bit more specifically too. I know that we, you know, we can volunteer, we can donate time and money. You know, those are kind of, I think those are somewhat low hanging fruit. You know, I wonder if there are other opportunities though, especially to kind of reach out to people who might not be interested in those things. I think for myself, you know, one thing that I try to do is share as much information with my colleagues as I can in terms of opportunities to donate their time, their effort, their money. But just to, you know, kind of spread the word and, you know, get other people excited about this and help build that kind of coalition to make this change, you know, and kind of affect positive change. And then after that, I really want to, Rona submitted a really great question, so I want to make sure to touch on hers as well. I know this is a tough one.
Yeah, I'm really glad that this came up, and I think it's a great point. You know, we all know that there's unconscious bias in our industry, and one of the things that we've been talking at ACE about is being more proactive about engaging with underrepresented groups. And now, speaking not as a representative of ACE, but just as a you know, a professional in this community, we know that the people coming into our profession are actually pretty diverse. But when you look at leadership roles, you know, a lot of people from underrepresented groups leave our industry. And why is that? And how can we all help mentor not just the young people, but, you know, the emerging professionals, and I don't think I don't think anyone is deliberately not helping people, but I think we need to be proactive. We need to seek out these young people and emerging professionals, help guide their careers, help make sure they're getting the right opportunities. And Elatrice and Creighton, I'm so glad that you brought this up, because it's so important. And, you know, what does it matter if we mentor all these kids and then they get to the industry and then they're not welcome and they leave? I mean, and we, you know, it's been proven again and again that diverse teams are more successful, make more money, and do better in business. So even if you look at it from sort of a cynical perspective, we should be doing this.
I think this might actually be a good moment. I know Ziba from the AIA is on as well. So the AIA and NOMA actually have a new partnership through the JEDI committee. And so anyone who's really interested in kind of EDI issues, equity, diversity, inclusion, you know, I encourage you to kind of reach out to them. And, you know, I think one thing that's great to hear too, you know, kind of even in talking with the panelists before today, I think one kind of important thing to note too is that we have all these great organizations, and I do think it's also really important to talk to each other too. You know, even with the AIA or NOMA, or, you know, we talk about a lot of other organizations, you know, I think sharing our ideas, our passion, our resources, you know, I know that a few of you were even kind of talking about some overlaps within your organizations and ways to kind of help each other out. So Ziba, I don't know if you want to say a couple words. I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but I think that it's a great example of kind of taking those first steps to really try and find those synergies between different organizations and really push things forward.
Thanks, Jessica. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Ziba Ghassemi. I'm with Unibuy Redemco Westfield. I'm AIA Los Angeles board member and also JEDI committee member. As some of you may know, our committee actually was established this year. It's a joint committee between AIA LA and SoCal NOMA. And our goal is advancing issues of justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion in the profession. And hopefully some of you guys actually joined our Encompass conference last week. We had a very interactive, very robust 2-day conference that covered everything from workplace to urban resiliency to student stress. And we are really looking for any kind of input, any kind of ideas or program that we can help increase the issues of diversity and inclusion. So if you have any ideas, if you have anything to share with us, a number of our committee members are actually online right now. So let us know. We invite any kind of ideas. Thank you.
I'm actually going to jump back to Marcella here for a minute. So we got this great question that I think is actually kind of right in alignment with the work that Marcella's been doing at LATTC. So Rona's asking if anyone can address how you've worked with public high schools, general contractors and trades, and how these models can inform our work with future architects. I think this is actually pretty similar to the program that Marcella, you've started with LATTC, and now you're kind of trying to expand into other school systems and, in partnership with the mayor's office. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little more.
Sure. So during the summer, we have 15 educators from LAUSD. They all already had a green curriculum, but we introduced them to Careers by Design LA, which is basically how to use biomimicry and biophilia, how to teach math from a spatial point of view, how to use these geospatial tools. And very important, and I think I don't necessarily have the solutions, for us to really bring this community to be a player, we have to transform our built environment. And that's what our urban interventions are about. And, their mental health, their self-esteem, even that they're beautiful high school, sometimes they are very not personalized and very cold. So all these high school teachers began saying, how can they do an urban farming? How can they do science? How can they beautify their walk to school? So that's one of the things that Career by Design LA is that besides looking at the traditional sustainability, we're also looking at how to beautify, kind of like neighborhood makeover, how to beautify their environment. And the professors, the educators were super excited. And then we invited a lot of carpenters, plumbers, construction managers, people that specialize in solar paneling, people that specialize in, the Internet of Things. How does the building information modeling is going to connect to sensors? Because these youth are also amazing with these tools. So how do we, that's why I said map it, see it, make it. So I think utilizing the tools, beautifying their communities, and then having this immense amount of professionals that want to participate. And yes, I agree with you. You want a mentor that looks like you, but you also want a mentor that has a similar passion. So if you're designing vertical trellises that are smart, you want the mentor that also has that passion. It's like, I think architecture and design is like going to see a good concert, and it doesn't matter who you're from because you both like the same music. So the same is with architecture. When you are passionate about one little part of the built environment and you find that mentor, I think it creates relationship. And that's why I'm very interested to continue talking with Mr. Taylor and NOMA. And I think Thank you for the JADA committee. I think this is just the beginning. This is LA, and we have to make this model. You know, we have to create this new model because we have all these beautiful opportunities in the Mecca of design.
How much time do we have?
Keep going. Keep going.
Okay, guys, I wasn't sure we stopped at 5:30.
Yeah, we can go till 6. Yep. So.
Okay. No, these comments just like set me off, and I just started thinking about all these different things. So, yeah, no, I think this is really good discussion because we work with a bunch of different programs. Some of them are actually in partnership with Mayor Garcetti, like Mixed Exchange for Tech Pathway with Mayor Garcetti. We started with a couple years ago. United LA does some work with the mayor, and we do a lot of this mentor matching piece. And so it's just really, even within school systems, and it's just like it's just been interesting. It's been a mixed bag, right? So I think from a race standpoint, that's always really important, I think visually, but and gender as well. But again, like what Marcella says, interest is huge. And particularly, I think with one of our partners, College of Congress, they focus on government pathways. They match, interest is the major thing. So like if they can bond, what they could be cooking while they're talking, or they could be running, or they could be hiking, or whatever that common interest is, so that like however they spend their free time, if that mentee also spends their free time in a similar way, they can just kind of do that in parallel and talk about that. And whenever something happens where they have a conflict, they can default to that common interest. So I think that has been huge. Values has been huge. Making sure that if you value creativity or value responsibility, all those things that you particularly, the type of people that you gravitate towards, which is actually literally the question that we pair by, they rank them. What are the type of people you gravitate towards? And if you gravitate towards the same similar person, then all of a sudden you're like, hey, I'm looking for you, you're looking for me.
Exactly.
I think that's a huge piece as well. And then we also look at personality and so there's just all these different angles that make it really interesting. But I think ultimately I've had conversations with other people that like with Da Vinci schools, Da Vinci Rise, they pair people just on literally the mentor's dedication to the space. And so for those who are most dedicated, they pair them with the most dedicated students. And that seems to, and they actually have more than, it's not one-to-one. So one mentor can have multiple, and that seems to have great results. Other programs do the opposite, where some students are not engaged, so they have the most dedicated mentor pair them. So it's just so many ways to slice and dice it, and I've seen success in those different ways of slicing. So again, case studies probably is good to help with this stuff. But I think like, and of course, in person is ideal. I think for us, we're really just kind of helping a program like the programs on here organize and facilitate, hopefully in person meetings. But I think that there's just lots of ways to slice and dice it. I can go on for this forever, so I'm gonna stop there. I think that there's just so many ways to slice and dice it, and I think ultimately I'm a big proponent of variety. America Needs You, another program we work with, which is actually Jessica reconnected through them. They have in-person events periodically, and they have they're open, so they mentors. They have their main pairing, but they also do kind of interactions with others. So the ability to kind of have multiple influences, and maybe that's a really good solution, because then you have your main pairing, and then you can also get some inspiration from these other sort of ways to slice and dice a pairing. So a lot of different ways to do it, but I have seen a lot of success in these different ways. So it's just really interesting.
And I think more than ever in history, we need architects, because we're trained to be innovative and creative. Like right now, I mean, I can just think every day of 2 new careers. Like right now, it was this morning with all the retail architecture, we won't be able to put anything else in the landfill. So how are we going to train somebody? We have to basically do all the as-builts of all the products, all the furniture. We got to make a database. We got to put like a storage. We got to look at the open spaces where they could go. So what are the specific skills and tasks that you can immediately train people that can make good living? And I think it has to be like an immediate transformation with the skills that I really find them learning them super fast. So I think that with all our, collaboration, we can really embrace the creativity and the innovation of these new jobs, and the same goes for soil and for plastic and everything. I mean, it's just so huge, all the new jobs, but I don't think we're moving fast enough to train our communities from all levels of society. I see it also in rich communities. They're very frustrated too. So this is a solution of abundance and collaboration that I think is going to make us succeed. I'm sorry I get too passionate about it.
I think the original question was about how we interact with the schools or administration. I'm confused. Can you give me the question again?
Sure, no problem. Yeah, that's great. I like that we're going through some tangents. That's good. But yeah, the original question was actually related to connecting high school students to jobs either within trades, within contracting, and how that kind of impacts us as architects. So how all of those kind of pieces fit together.
Oh, okay. So for us, we have in one of the tiers of our summer camp in our architectural boot camp is we have our next level program. So we partner the highly gifted and interested students with one of our sponsor architecture firms, and they do a week of job shadowing during the summer. So they actually get to follow an architect and they go to the firm for the week in between because our camp is Saturday only. So that last week of camp in between the last 2 Saturdays, they get to actually shadow and experience the work of an architect. And so we've been very successful with giving them a real live current view of the work that we do. And then once they have completed sort of our levels of programs, we invite them and promote and sponsor them to next level programs at all of the colleges that are associated with us and that have NOMAS chapters, and also summer programs that are connected to architecture.
You guys are very multifaceted as well, which is fantastic. And while you're still here, Ilatrice, we did get a question about the SoCal NOMA DEI challenge. If you could tell us a little bit more about that, and Will Wright also shared the link with more information in the chat as well.
I love that. I'm going to defer my DEI challenge comment to one or two of my colleagues, which I believe are on the line, and I'm going to shoot it over to Janice Williams, who is really deep into the planning and spearheading of that. I do want to let the group know that as we are working on all the levels, as in our pipeline, we try to hit every person at every level that would be in contact with architecture and that would need to have diversity, equity, and inclusion as they are presented in that. So we do have our DEI challenge, okay, that we have presented to the professional community of architecture and engineering and construction, but we are also working on our DEI challenge for colleges and universities. So Janice, I hope you're here and they're ready.
Hi, everyone. My apologies for not having my camera on this evening. But yes, so our SoCal NOMA DEI Challenge was launched about a month ago, and we have a presentation that is available on our website for more information. But in a nutshell, we basically itemized measurable items that we are targeting for all of our firms who have signed up. And of course, reaching out to other firms who may be interested in joining us in this challenge to really just join us in this effort to really, take measurable steps for increasing diversity in the profession and within their organizations. So it does dive into detail. I don't want to take too much time here, but the reason why we came up with this challenge was really to give us all some actionable items that we could all hold ourselves accountable to, help encourage each other across the profession and the industry to really take this charge and, work together, because we know this cannot be done in a vacuum. It cannot be done within our own organizations. We do have to collaborate, and we have to be willing to be open and honest about these conversations and discussions. So always feel free to reach out to us at admin@socalnoma.org for more information. And of course, our website is socalnoma.org.
Thanks, Janice. Really appreciate you jumping in. It's always great to have another voice.
Thank you.
That's great. And actually, so I think I kind of have one final question. If there are any other last questions that the group has, please feel free to throw them into the chat box, and we'll kind of start wrapping up here in a couple minutes. But going back to John B's question. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, if I could just make a quick plug for another program that I'm not a part of, but that my company's participated in. It's called the Intern Project, and it provides paid internships to high school students. And before we participated in this, we only hired college grad students as interns, and some people, myself included, were skeptical that high school students could really contribute to a design team, but they have been amazing, and they have made meaningful contributions to our projects. So I'd encourage everybody to get involved with that program as well.
I had not heard of that. That's really good to know. And it actually, it kind of filters into my last question, which relates back to John B's original question, which is kind of, as professionals, what can we be doing? How can we be actively participating in the development of the pipeline for our professions? I wonder if you all have any ideas. I think that's probably one where we can sort of make recommendations to our communities to to our companies, in order to try and push for increased mentorship, increased representation, increased diversity, or even just kind of facilitating conversations about EDI. I think I know a lot of other people who work for firms right now, we're all, given current circumstances, we're all really evaluating how we approach issues of EDI and what more we can do beyond what we've already been doing. So if you have any ideas of recommendations that, everyday employees working for a company can really push forward in their own way, I think that would be great to know in order for us to help, keep the ball rolling. So. Any thoughts on that?
Something that, so the Los Angeles Community College District with the bond program, and I know there's some legalities on some of these, but and it doesn't necessarily need to be on your website, but if you could do kind of like a private Google Drive where you can put like studies or like professional work that you guys do for your clients that you guys can share with the students, then they can actually learn something that is not a periodical, it's not just on the web, it's not on your website, but something kind of more private that the students, even a set of construction documents, like we learn a lot from the solar decathlon is really, and then thank God that we have the community colleges and I get access to all the construction documents for our 9 billion with a B, so the students learn tremendously. But having access to real drawings and real design examples from industry, I think then when they go and work for industry, they don't feel as intimidated. So if there's any work that could be published and shared with the students, I think is really exponential and it gives them a lot of self-confidence. So that would be one thing that I will advise all the architecture, engineering, and construction firms to share with education. Maybe it can be one specific drive that is just for education. I think that will accelerate the industry tremendously. I mean, even sometimes I get the Revit files, I get the Photoshop files, I get the SketchUp files, and it's a fabulous learning opportunity. I know you guys couldn't because of all, the legal, but there's certain things that you could. It could be a project that was a competition in China, right? And you can give us the Revit files, like something that it wouldn't put in any type of conflict your company. So things like that, I think that's very powerful for students.
Yeah, I would add that, piggybacking off Marcel, that would be really helpful, I think, for how we come at this as well, is examples of projects, but also, this may or may not, this may be maybe a lot to ask, but case studies, big surprise, of you know, how to approach problems and things like that. You know, just even if it's kind of, you know, simplified and things like that, then you can kind of you can point students to that, and they can see how to reason through things and come up with their own solutions. Yeah, I think so. You know, I guess I think about it from a problem solution standpoint. Posting solutions, great. Posting problems, also great. And simplified problems, things that kids can kind of look at and be like, hey, and teachers, instructors can look at and be like, oh, I can design a lesson around this, because I think that's really helpful, so they can have a little bit of a frame of reference of how things are progressing in the industry.
I think we have to be brave right now and confronting our own place in this movement, in our fight for justice, equity, and inclusion. And you have to just look at yourself and where you stand. And if you're not confident enough to present that stance, we have things like the DEI Challenge that help you move through that. We have these programs where you can present and offer up opportunities for people to get engaged. I think a lot of this is people, you know, they're not engaged enough to know that really what we're going through in the Black community and communities of color. So they need to get engaged. And so if you're not going to take a stand yourself and present either this program or any one of these programs, or however you feel about it, to your company, I think you latch on to another program or something that's established that you can present, and then you just continue to push engagement. We will provide wonderful opportunities we have here on all of these levels. The National Organization of Minority Architects is available. The JEDI Committee, there are all kinds of ways that you can get involved. And you just need to take a stand, because this is not going away. And the industry is going to have to make some shifts. And you can be a part of the change and a part of the promotion of it, or you can sit on the sidelines. But this is where we are.
Can I say something?
Please.
It's okay,
do.
Jessica?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, so just to piggyback off that, I think part of making that change that Leatrice was mentioning is really understanding that in our profession, there is racism. I know we like to say unconscious bias. It's a very political thing to say, but there's also racism. And we have to deal with that. We have to deal that there is some diversity issues. I heard someone say our profession is very diverse. Well, I question that. I would also believe that, I guess it might be how you define diversity. Yes, we do have a lot of women who have now, the numbers have gone up tremendously. So from a gender perspective, there's been a lot of improvement. We must acknowledge that, and we must also support that. But in terms of, there's also a lot of international, I guess, students and also international professionals in our profession. But does that make it diverse? When we start looking at the numbers, and the numbers are very clear. I don't know how much research we have to do on numbers, but we know that African Americans in the past were a certain percentage, and if you look at it to the present, those percentages have not gone up. They're still very bad. So diversity is an issue in our profession, and we have to face up to that. I think we also have to understand that if we look at the history, we have had the AIA and we have had the ACE program for a long, long time. And there's been other programs, there's been universities and institutions that have been around a long time. And we have to acknowledge that in those years, not much have happened. So if we continue to do things the way that it was done before, we'll continue to get the same results. We have to acknowledge that we need the education system needs to have inclusion of other people involved. I think we also have to acknowledge the fact that our firms, our businesses, not just look at statistics, but we know there need to be an improvement. And I think we have to address those issues. We got to be real about it and talk about those things. Just talking and then, I guess, going on is not going to help that. You know, NOMA came about because of a reason. Otherwise, you wouldn't need NOMA if there were some of those issues were addressed. There would just be one organization. You wouldn't need ACE if NOMA didn't exist. If NOMA was part of ACE, if NOMA was part of AIA, if NOMA, and I know we are in some part of it, but I mean in a true sense of making decisions and things like that, you wouldn't need NOMA per se. Thank you.
Thank you, Drake. Drake, this is Mark. If I could just piggyback on my old friend's comments, Mark Harmon. Yeah, in my 30 years, nearly 30 years in this industry, I haven't noticed an appreciable uptick in representation of African Americans in the industry. It's just an observation of mine, and I've worked for some big firms and some modest-sized firms too, but I haven't noticed that. And it sounds like there's a lot of room for growth here, a lot of opportunities, and a lot of great minds like yourselves here that are working on these things. I did have one question just for everybody in general. You know, pop culture is a big influence in our community. Has anybody ever reached out to your knowledge, to the power brokers, so to speak, in the pop culture world, whether it's movies, and to discuss maybe putting, for example, African Americans in roles, whether architects or designers, just the kind of, because that's what people are in tune with. That's what they relate to. And I think those things, they carry a lot of weight in our communities.
Well, interesting you say that, Mark, because I always thought we could do some small, even if it's not with Instagram now and with social media, do some short movies, because a lot of people think, I had like students, and I always like to say these, like, we were doing urban farming, and the student was so passionate about soil. And I told him, it's called soil engineering. And now he's taking all these kind of filter classes that are at the very beginning kind of so bored, but when he knows that he wants to be a soil engineering because he discovered it by doing urban farming. So if we were to make some, we could write a grant and just do some social media about the built environment and all the professions that come from the built environment, because I think a lot of people in middle schools don't see the connection between what does an engineer do and then all the professions underneath the engineering and water for, it's all interconnected, it's all interdependent. And so that's why I think sometimes working with a project, instead of working from the discipline perspective, it engages the student first. So we have contacted some movie stars and some things to do something, like imagine if they come to an opening of a neighborhood makeover. I mean, just that, we will give us, or having like a show of neighborhood makeover. I mean, this is LA, right? That will give us enough funding for doing a lot of awesome. So I think, Mark, that's what I'm saying. I think LA has an opportunity that no other city has.
Can you imagine who that actor that just died the other day, Chadwick Boseman? Can you imagine him being in a movie playing an architect, and what sex appeal that role would have to so many people?
Right.
Well, I guess from my perspective, like this point is actually the inspiration I had for even going into this space and starting Guided Compass. I honestly just feel like there's way too much emphasis on the entertainment industry. I think even particularly from the Black community. And although I think that is a good point and probably would be likely effective, I wonder, it seems like it'd be hard to really pull off effectively I guess, at scale, just because, the reason why, I don't know who does the casting, you have to get the casting director, and the logistics of that seem difficult to me. And I just think it seems like, to me, the biggest reason for me going into a space is because I got my hands dirty and I felt like I connected with it, and I know people that I respect that are in it. So that's why things like what Noma's doing, I think, is really, really, really impactful. Having a mentor program that gives you that insight that it's not just Denzel I look up to, it's also this engineer that I know, that I see, that I touch, that hopefully becomes part of their world, part of their entertainment, so to speak. I guess that's one of my goals, is to help these students connect beyond that world, because I just feel like that's what they automatically default connect to. That's middle school, high school for me. That's what everybody talked about. So I went to LA, I went to school in LA. They automatically focus on movies, sports, and music.
Right.
And that was one of the inspirations.
Infiltrating.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I think that probably would be effective. I just hope that's not the way. I hope that's not the answer, because I think that what would be most effective there would be the kid wants to be that actor or actress more than they actually want to be, or that version they see in the movie or TV that is an architect that's not really what it's like in a day-to-day.
Hi, Catherine. Hi.
Yeah, and I would just add that, sorry, who was that? Is that Rona?
I was just going to say, I agree with you, Creighton. But I think that there is an opportunity to take advantage of the film industry in LA. And one of the things that we're doing at the Structural Engineers Association is we're going to create a short film about minority engineers that have made a difference. And so our first film is going to be about Benito Sinclair. And so the focus of the film is not going to be the actor, but actually the man. But we're going to take advantage of all of the film talent we have here to make a compelling piece that we can use, Marcella, on Instagram or what have you. So I think there's definitely an opportunity to use the industry that we have here in LA to help tell the story of all these, amazing people that make our industry great.
And I would agree with everything that everybody has said. About that, I do know that and agree with Carrington that focusing in on like an actor and the industry sometimes does take it away. They're on that person or the actor and not what the actor is doing. So we would have to do some work and make sure that we're focused on architecture or engineering or the built environment in some way. There are some great movies that are about that you can look past the actor, but it does take a bit of work. But we do have a unique opportunity here, in LA, being right here in Hollywood, that we should possibly try to take advantage of that. So I agree with that.
I don't know about you guys, but I always am driven crazy by how people portray architects in movies because it's not real. They're like walking around with a bunch of blueprints and I'm like, nope, that is not correct. So I think, it's hard in movies, especially to portray, particular profession, especially one that's, very technical, and I think that, kids are really smart and they want to grab onto something that they're interested in and excited about. And so I think, to Creighton and Beatrice's and everybody's points, it's, finding another person that you can relate to on that, I think is really, what we're trying to do. But Rona raised your hand. Do you want to go ahead?
Well,
Rona?
I was just going to offer I'm with the AIA California, but I love coming to your events, and I'd just like to say, as a person who committed herself to a career in government and industry, the greatest diversity that I've seen has been in architects in government and military. We have a national network of architects through the knowledge communities at the AIA. I've met people from all over the world, all kinds of people. I have the senior architect that brought me into the committee 10 years ago, Kirstine Snetter. She was an immigrant from the Ivory Coast, and was at that time the chief architect for the U.S. military at Jefferson Labs, and David Trevino from the city of Dallas, and Dr. Paula Loomis, PhD FAIA from a colonel with the Coast Guard. So I think that AIA can provide some additional resources for your young people to actually hear from some of the architects that have taken paths which do inform the fact that we should think beyond traditional practice, because traditional practice can be a bit outdated in its models. And you can meet some tremendous architects from the Corps of Engineers, from public universities and other places where you wouldn't think architects work. And the work is lucrative, interesting. You make a difference, you have a long career, get a pension, it's pretty nice. And you know, if you want to have kids, it's something you can do in a government job. And these are things that should be available. I love the idea of working with the AIA to make a film, you LA guys, because there's lots of great films. And so I think we should partner up with our colleagues, AIA California, and this group with our colleagues in Washington who make films, and get some of the voices that might speak to the young people from all the different sectors. But there certainly aren't enough voices, but there are some that might be helpful. And thank you for including the rest of us in this very, really meaningful forum.
So we're down to our last couple minutes here, and I really want to thank you all for staying on. I know 90 minutes is a little bit of a long time. It's a big chunk out of your day, but I think that, you know, we're all here because we really care about this. We care about the future of our profession and what it's going to look like, and you know, how our actions impact the professions for many, many years to come. So I think, you know, having all of us here, especially our panelists and all the folks who kind of spoke up, you know, I really appreciate Janice and Ziba, you guys kind of chiming in, and others who had questions. So I think it's really important that we continue this conversation, not just when it's, you know, in the news, and not just when it's, you know, kind of trendy or important, but I think that we're all here and we all really care and we want to make a difference. So I hope that we can all continue the conversation, kind of keep the ball rolling. And the last thing I will leave you with is that the AIA LA Practice Committee has our next upcoming event in October. And so we're kind of sticking with a theme this fall. So we're going to be focusing on philanthropic involvement and pro bono work that is within the design professions. And so we hope you guys will join us. It's going to be kind of a Pecha Kucha style presentation of 10 different projects. Naoko or Mark, I think you guys are both on the line. Do you want to say anything else about our next program?
Naoko, would you like the privilege, or would you like me to?
Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Well, anyways, save the date, October 13th, as you can see on this slide. Yeah, we're gonna throw a spotlight on some great projects, including Destination Crenshaw. Drake will be telling you more about that in October 13th. And we're gonna have a representative from OACLA is going to participate. And we're also going to have I believe, a representative from Gensler. It's going to talk about this wonderful little market in downtown LA called Lupita's Market, and what a great story that is, and more. There's going to be a lot more than just those items or those projects. So it's going to be a really exciting event, much like this one we had today, and I hope you all can join us.
That, I hope you all have a fantastic evening. Thank you again so much. We really appreciate it, and have a great night.